What is up, DramaAlert Nation? I'm your host, Killer Keemstar. Let's get right into the news. Today, we're going to focus on hacking in CSGO. Now, for those of you that have ever played CSGO, you're going to run across hackers often. In fact, even some of the pro players have been caught hacking at live events. We have a known hacker in the CSGO community here. We're going to refer to him as Dylan, also a friend of mine. Dylan, first of all, why are there so many hackers in CSGO?
I mean, people at the higher ranks, started cheating, and at this point, the anti-cheat in the game, VAC and Overwatch are pretty much a joke among cheaters at this point. It's just so easy for people to start cheating. Someone will get cheated, and at the really high ranks, you run into cheaters so often that, most people are just like, fuck this. If I can't play without getting cheated, I'm going to do it myself.
So basically, you got all these normal players that are good at the game, and then they get to a certain rank where it's just all hackers. These hackers aren't being stopped, so in order to keep competing, they need to start hacking too? Is that what we're talking about?
I mean, at this point, pretty much, as sad as that sounds.
So is that what happened? That's pretty much how you started hacking? Is you were playing legit, and then all of a sudden you got to a level where every other game was hackers, so you had to hack
pretty
in
much.
order to...
And I mean, right now, it's worse than I personally have ever seen it in the time that I've been playing CS:GO.
Now what?
At the high ranks, you run into a cheater at least every other game, it seems.
All right, so you're cheating and you're running into cheaters. Explain what that's like. Is it like an arms race of like who has the better hacks now?
It can be. It depends on the type of cheater you're going against. Sometimes, most of the time when you run into people that are cheating at high ranks, it's just people that, they just want to pretend that they're better than everyone else, and so, they don't just go in and aimbot everyone. They're trying to hide it. You know what I mean? So
right.
Once they realize that someone else is cheating, then maybe they'll turn theirs up. Then they'll be more obvious in an attempt to try and beat you. It really just depends. I mean, but me personally, if I run into another cheater, depending on how obvious he is, I might turn my hacks to the max, and he'll turn his up to the max, and we'll have a hacker battle or whatever.
Now, do you guys have the same hacks? Like,
I'm using a private hack, which only the coder, myself, and like 3 other guys use. But at this point, there's so many hacks out there, so many people making hacks, as a business, that you're probably not going to run into the same guy using the same hack as you.
Now, so most of the people out there that purchase hacks, how much are these hacks sold for? And there's this whole business of selling hacks and making hacks for games and selling them, right? I mean, by professional companies, right?
Yeah, people set up, legitimate businesses. I say that by, people are registering legitimate companies, to sell their hacks, and, their business is making, $500,000 to $1 million a year selling hacks for various different games. On CS:GO, you could pay as little as $5 a month or even $10, one time for a hack. And it really just depends on what you want. If you just want to cheat in, matchmaking only on, Valve anti-cheat secured servers, then, hacks for that are pretty cheap. It's pretty trivial to bypass VAC. But, these people that are cheating at, events, LAN events and stuff like that, like the professional players, they're paying anywhere from a couple $100 to $1,000, and, some of them are even agreeing to give a percentage of the profits from winning to the coders.
Wow, these pro players are getting special hacks to compete with at live events, and they're giving a percentage of their winnings to the coders to make it so undetectable. Now listen, 2 pro players I've seen, and there could be more, but from what I've seen on YouTube, 2 pro players were VAC banned, which means caught for cheating at live events. How does that happen? How do they get hacks into live events? I mean, there's a live audience there. People are watching all around the world. They're there in person at an event. How do they get hacks there?
It depends on the event, but recently some of the pro players that you're referring to, one of the most famous ones, known as K2LY, he was able to get his hacks into the game via an exploit through one of Steam's systems called Steam Workshop, which was a system Valve made for content creators to share their maps and stuff.
It's for developers, right?
Right, for people to distribute their maps and other content, and somehow they were able to find an exploit to get the hack to, download and run itself through that.
That's incredible. Is there any other way that these pro players were actually getting these hacks on their systems at these live events?
Some events allowed you to bring in, your own keyboard and mice and stuff like that, and so some mice have internal storage and stuff, and so they were able to hack the mouse's driver and firmware to load the hack via that way. Is another way that they've done it.
I mean, this is just absolutely unreal. Okay, there's so much hacking in CS:GO, so much hacking that it's become a different game. It's become a different game, in my opinion. It used to be who's the better shot and who's best at the game. But it seems like now at the higher levels and normal matchmaking, and even at the pro level, it's who has the better hacks. I mean, this is unheard of. Tell us a story about a really good hack battle that you've had on CS:GO.
I mean, so, recently there's a private hack that has recently went public for sales that was pretty good, and so, now that it's gone public, there's a ton of people using it, and with that, they're also selling the Overwatch bypass, so, you'll basically not get banned at all, and, until Valve decides to go after the hack and detect it. So right now there's, a ton of cheaters queuing up and matchmaking for the sole purpose of finding other hackers to have a hack battle. So, recently I've had a ton of those, and I have a few friends. We've even formed a team, as silly as that sounds, but a hacking team to run into other hackers. And so, recently I've done a couple that were like 1 versus 3 or 2 versus 4 or whatever, and, it's never really a dull moment when I'm queuing on one of my Rage Hack accounts.
I mean, this is just so interesting because, we're talking about a skill-based game, like who is better at the game, all right? Then someone decides to cheat, right? Then a lot of people decide to cheat, and it goes back to a skill-based game, and or who has the better hack. I mean, there has to be some type of skills, even though you're using the hack. When to use the hack, how to use the hack.
Yeah, exactly. There is.
So it's still a skill-based game, even though everyone's hacking at that level. I mean, this is so interesting. Now, real quick, can you explain what is the Overwatch system? And how do people get caught or sent to Overwatch?
So, CS:GO is protected by VAC, Valve Anti-Cheat. But
Yeah.
the problem with VAC is that, VAC is more of a reactive solution rather than proactive. VAC is basically, they've detected a cheat and, then they've gone after it and they've decided to set up a thing to block it and determine the legit players from the hacking players. And so, VAC, it can take them weeks, months, even years to detect, a hack with VAC.
Right.
So they needed some sort of proactive solution to catch cheaters, and so they came up with Overwatch, which is basically if you get reported, a video of your gameplay will be sent into the Overwatch system. Other players will review it, and if everyone who watches it collectively agrees that you were cheating, then you'll be banned.
So real people watch your gameplay to determine if you're cheating or not, and
so
then you
they'll
get
watch
banned.
you, and
Now,
so
the hack that you have bypasses, and a lot of the hacks that are out there now are bypassing this Overwatch system. How does that work?
It's actually not a hack per se that's bypassing Overwatch. It's more of just a method to hide yourself from being seen from Overwatch. And at this point, that method is basically public.
So can you say it or no?
Yeah, basically the way that you get into the Overwatch system, which was found out, I guess, by cheaters that were constantly cheating and constantly getting banned, were able to find this loophole, and they found out that it takes 9 reports, 9 unique reports to get sent into the Overwatch system. And, every game has 10 players, so if you queue up with a buddy and you play 1 game, the most amount of reports you're going to get from that game is 8 if your friend doesn't report you. So basically the strategy is you play 1 game, you wait 24 hours, and then you play another. And if you keep doing that, as long as you don't get over 9 reports, then you'll never be seen by Overwatch. And so that's the strategy that everyone is using right now to avoid Overwatch.
That is just absolutely unreal. It's so interesting. It's absolutely interesting. What would you say to people out there that, think, you're a horrible person for hacking in these games and that you're ruining the game somehow? What would you say to them?
I would agree with them when, if I'm playing against legitimate players and I'm cheating, then yeah, I do feel like an asshole for ruining the game, but these days that's not really the type of cheater that I am. My fun comes from versing other cheaters and seeing, if I can beat them.
Yeah, you're not really playing normal players, you're just playing hackers all day.
Right, pretty much. My fun is in hack versus hack battle.
Awesome. Thanks, Dylan, for your insight on this. It's going to be crazy to see what's happening over in professional CSGO scene now that so many professional players are being caught using hacks. It's going to be interesting to see, you know, how that turns out. And I'm really curious to wonder, a professional player that's depending on hacks in CSGO, you know, one day might be like, okay, I can't use these hacks anymore. Their skill level has to take a giant dive if they're used to playing with this type of assistant. So it's going to be interesting to see where this esport goes. And Envy just recently purchased a CSGO team. It's unreal. That's it for the news today, guys. Let's try to shoot for 110 likes. DramaAlert Nation now over 263,000 subscribers.